Momentum certainly seems to be gaining ground with these tweets that we've been seeing from President Trump. What military options does he have?
Actually, if we compare the military action that Donald Trump has taken last year and comparing it with this year and the options that he has, I believe Donald Trump has three options. The first one is limited, targeted strikes against certain military air bases, especially in Homs, in central Syria, and also in the suburbs of Damascus. I believe these strikes will not hurt the Syrian army in a way that prevent it from advancing into Daraa, into southern Syria, because there is a mobilization of the Syrian forces in order to advance towards the south to fight the Saudi and the Israeli proxies in the city of Daraa. And then there is also an intention to go towards the east in order to fight or try to kick out the American forces from the eastern shores of the Euphrates. So if Donald Trump relies on the limited targets, the first option, it won't have an impact, a strong impact on the advancement of the Syrian army. The second option
how is it? Can I just ask you? I just want to get on to how we think Russia might react, because some Russian officials have said that they would respond by shooting down US missiles. Would any action by the US necessarily force a reaction from Russia?
Actually, this depends on the nature of the strikes, of the American strikes. If the strikes were limited and didn't hurt, let's say, the infrastructure of the Syrian army or the Russian army on the Syrian soils, there would be a gunning down of the missiles that is falling on the Syrian soil. But if there were a prolonged attack against the Syrian army bases or strategic bases in Syria, I believe there will be a retaliation not only from the Russian side, but also from the Iranian side, because we are speaking about not only a limited targeted strikes, but we are talking about strikes that could hurt the backbone of the Syrian army and crush its capabilities in order to advance and continue its fight against the terrorists, namely in Daraa and also in eastern Syria.
We're also hearing that the Syrian regime is preparing for a possible US strike. It's moving its aircraft to the Russian airbase at Latakia. Do you think the US would shy away from explicitly targeting a Russian airbase?
If we think it logically, and I don't believe the Americans would go that much far in striking Russian air bases in order to strike the Syrian warplanes. But unfortunately, nowadays we are not dealing with a rational president in the United States. If we check his tweets, unfortunately, we have a kind of a character in the White House that is tweeting about beautiful and smart strikes on Twitter instead of keeping it in secret. So unfortunately, we have a kind of a president in the United States that we cannot expect his steps. But also, the only let's say decision is not in the hands of Donald Trump. There is the Pentagon, there is the CIA. So I believe these two institutions will not rush into war with Russia, because the repercussions are very grave. And also, we have to remember that the Americans, they don't have a strong military presence, boots on the ground in Syria. If they want to cause a huge damage and overthrow the government in Syria or go further, they need boots on the ground, and they don't have it. The Russians have, the Iranians have, Hezbollah has, even Turkey has boots on the ground in Syria, but the Americans have very limited boots on the ground, maybe 2,000 soldiers, and that doesn't give the Americans an upper hand to defeat the Russians, the Iranians, and the Syrians. Okay. The balance of power in Syria is in favor of Syria and its allies.
Kevork, good to have your thoughts there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Kevork Almassian there.